Merry Christmas. Today I'm talking about math. If that's not your bag, please just like the video and leave. I don't blame you. This is going to be some nerd shit, okay? So, I want you to imagine that, pick your favorite YouTuber with a big audience, and imagine they just released a book, and they sold 100,000 copies, and it's a bad book. You got these critics screeching, oh, but they didn't earn these sales. Then you have people saying, oh, but they spent 15 years building the audience to sell to. Like, how is that not earning those sales? I think the disconnect there I can resolve by applying statistics, something that basically no human understands. I don't even really understand statistics, but I know more than average, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So, let me first talk about random walks. Yeah, brace yourself, okay? The idea of a random walk, the reason it's called that is because the idea is that if every time interval, like every second, you flip a coin and decide if it's heads, you walk forward, and if it's tails, you walk back. Then you ask, after 2 hours, where are you? Where are you likely to be? What's your distribution? And under that scenario, you actually just end up with a standard distribution of you're probably going to be pretty close to where you started, because for every, you're just as likely to move forward as you are to move back. But you could flip heads 1,000 times and end up 1,000 steps away from start, right? So that's the idea of a random walk. Because you can iterate it, because you are talking about random events that keep happening that skew where you end up. Even though you can see that it is densest, where you're most likely to be, you still have sometimes you're going to end up very far away. To give a more digestible example, imagine you are playing roulette, and there isn't a 0-0-0. It's just, you're just gambling black and red. That is 50-50. You show up to the casino with $1,000 and you start putting $10 bets down, and you win, you get $20. You lose, you get nothing. That's the same math, but the difference is the casino doesn't let you go into debt. If you ever at one point have a losing streak where you end up at $0, game over. You actually have a different distribution now. You can now calculate how long will you get to play under those rules? Because at some point you will have a losing streak. On a long enough timeline, you will eventually run out of money. Doesn't matter how much you win, you always have an equal chance to come back down. But if you lose, you can't go back up. So when does it crash? That's a different distribution you can calculate. You can imagine, how many of these walks are going to end up at -10? How long is it going to take to hit -10 as one example on this. This graph I stole off of Google Images, and this is totally fair use. I'm being educational here, okay? So that's a different distribution. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because I believe that there is a better metric to measure the success of, say, a book rather than total sales. Because we all know that if Michelle Obama releases a book, the book could have absolutely no literary merit whatsoever. It could literally just be like lorem ipsum, just generated through the book. And there's a certain amount of people that are just going to buy it because Michelle Obama's name is on the front. Now, I haven't read Obama's book. It's just an example because it's extremely famous. And everyone who's ever walked into a bookstore has probably seen those political books just plastered to the front displays. And you wonder, who is buying these people? Political simps on both sides of the aisle, right? But the thing is, if the book's crap, nobody's going to recommend that. So actually, I probably should use different examples. Multiple people have recommended Obama's autobiography to me for some reason. But that recommendation rate is actually probably more relevant to assess the quality of a book than the actual total sales. Because if you have an initial sales audience of 1 million people and your final sales are 1 million books, that means not a single person was able to convince someone else to buy it because it was crap. Now, however, if you have an audience of 1, and the book is this super weird mathematical quirk where everybody who reads it goes, oh, I know one person that's going to enjoy this. And they hand it to the next guy, and to the next guy, and to the next guy, and to the next guy. That's not going to feel like a breakout success, but if everybody finds one other buyer for it, you will eventually have the entire human population read that book. It means everybody liked it. That's sales of 7 billion. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. But you're going to have, like, if you actually start assessing, okay, I had an audience of, say, 100. So I sold 100 copies to my audience. And then I checked in later and I saw that my total sales were 300 or something like that. I didn't actually do the math here. I didn't boot up MATLAB to run simulations because I don't think I'm going to be particularly rewarded in the algorithm for this breakdown. But if every person who buys that book recommends it to 2 other people, and each of those people recommended it to 2 other people, you'll get exponential growth, and it will just run away. Now, obviously, not every person out there is going to recommend it to 2 other people. Even then, at some point, you're accidentally going to have people getting it recommended from multiple sides. So, actually, you need to be thinking about it as, so for my initial population, what is the average person's successful recommendation rate? And if it's above 1, you have a breakout success. If it's below 1, you're eventually going to crash and you're going to hit a total amount of sales, which incidentally is what most books do. Most books don't sell themselves through word of mouth. Some very, very good ones will grow and grow and grow. But unfortunately, like what I've been experiencing with my web novel, you can have success among, say, a community of people that really enjoy gritty, realistic fantasy, and then they can't convince other people who don't enjoy that genre to like it, or they won't convert to other sales or anything because they have this insular community where, or military sci-fi is probably a better example. People who like military sci-fi can easily recommend a military sci-fi book to other fans of military sci-fi, but they could never convert somebody who is a romance reader. So you will, that's basically how you find your audience. You're talking about populations that are open to it and are willing to give it a try when vouched for, to give the creator credibility, which I got to do another video on about creator credibility. And, as you get further away from the perfect audience, the rate that they're recommending the book successfully is going to go down. So that's one reason where you might have explosive sales for the first few weeks, and then it's just going to taper off because everyone who is open to buying it has probably already heard about it, right? That's how you're going to end up with one walk that gets you to a certain amount of sales. And if you have a really good book, you can start with an initial audience of 100 and still hit 100,000 sales. Just like a YouTuber had an initial audience of 100,000 buyers and wrote a crap book, and you get to the same amount of sales. Now, who do you think is going to have earned those sales more on a creative front? I would say it's the guy with the higher reproductive rate. The guy that wrote a book that made people want to recommend it. This is why reviews are so important, why getting brought on shows is so important. Now, when we talk about the small worlds connected problem, because even if someone really, really likes your book, if they live in a basement and never talk to anybody, they're kind of worthless. If they're a TikTok influencer with 10 million idiot followers that do all their dances and spend all day talking about them, just buying whatever they say to buy, that one person who likes the book and makes one TikTok about it just exposed 10 million people to it. And even if it's an abysmal conversion rate of those 10 million people they talk to, 0.01%, that's thousands of sales. And then those people are going to pop off and say, okay, so of those sales, how many more sales are you going to get from those sales? And then how many more sales are you going to get from those sales? And so on and so on and so on. And realistically, what I've been building to this whole time is explaining why everyone is yelling at big creators to stop talking about Disney. You got to talk about other things. Because if you are, say, the Meanie Beanie, if you know who that is, you bring someone on, you expose that person to 5 million viewers over the course of a few weeks or whatever, hundreds of thousands of viewers. That is, even at a bad conversion rate of less than 1%, you're talking about thousands of sales, thousands of people that might be the target audience that go and get you 5 more sales each. Because that's how word of mouth works if it is a good product. So that's why I'm advocating right now that people start trying to use to assess the quality of a book, is the ability for the readers, the fans, to sell the book to other people and convert them to fans. Because if you just look at sales, you just go, oh, well, they sold to their audience, which means they had a really high initial population, which means realistically they should be even bigger. Because if a person with a huge initial audience puts out a really, really good product that will propagate far beyond their initial reach, because they're going to have that statistical certainty, because every time they roll the dice of, okay, how connected is this person? How persuasive is this person? Do they know the right people? How many other sales does this one person through word of mouth actually get me on average? When you start with a really big initial population, you're probably going to get the statistical result as the final result. But if you start with a really small population, that is when luck starts to play in. Where you start going, well, you know, I sold 100 copies of my book. Half the people were able to get me another sale. So that got me to 150 sales. And of those 50 new sales, half again, I got 25, 12, 10, 11. I ended up with 200 sales. But my 200th sale was a TikTok influencer that popped me up to the best-selling chart. And then it cascaded down again because it was a bad book and you could only get half a sale from every purchase after that. But because you had that fluke accident of someone who's extremely connected, the sales exploded far beyond the initial audience. And you know what? That's luck. That's why people win through luck. And that's fine. That's just the nature of reality. That's fine. What I have a problem with is false advertising, which is a quirk of the internet where people will talk about a book that they haven't read because there is enough buzz about it that talking about it rewards them and grows their audience. They go like, not to name the book, but there was a book that I'm convinced went viral because it had to do with coffee. And people just liked going, oh, I got this cozy little book and my coffee. Don't you love coffee? I'm an intellectual. I look good because I'm sitting here reading a book and it's quirky and interesting. And maybe it's an all right book. I didn't actually read the book I'm making fun of right now. But there are times where people are getting a different reward, a different incentive to talk about the book to other people, other than simply the fact that it was a good product and they wanted to tell other people about this good product. That's why Disney keeps getting talked about. It's because when you make a video about Disney, people click on it. Even if it's people who don't like Disney, people want to enjoy the hatred. They want to be told that they're right to hate Disney. And then Disney's stats basically go through the roof because the model I'm talking about for word of mouth has been corrupted and broken down. But that's a video for another time. I hope that I managed to somewhat successfully explain the idea of a random walk, to talk about the idea of a product such as a book or a comic or a movie or whatever, a game, its reproductive rate. That is the term your people are essentially fighting over because people don't understand statistics. I hope I was able to explain this well. And if you think you're better at stats than me, I was bad at it, okay? Let me know in the comments if I screwed something up or if you got models or anything. Put down in the comments. I need the algorithm boost. Till then, please check out my book. I'm desperate. I need a higher initial audience, okay? I swear this is a good book, okay? I promise. Till next time.